You've seen the logo, you've felt the hype, and now it's time to reveal all.
Yeah, something exciting is about to kick off right here with the launch of #MerkyFC.
Research commissioned by Adidas reveals a shocking lack of black representation within the wider football industry.
Enough. On the pitch, we do our thing. But off the pitch, it's like we don't exist. That's all about to change. Welcome to Merky FC. A project I've created with Adidas to give young black people opportunities within the beautiful game. The time is now. 11 industry partners creating the next generation of leaders.
Hello and welcome to a very special show with myself, Jeanette Kwakye and Jaydee Dyer. Alongside us, award-winning recording artist, entrepreneur and founder of #Merky, it is Stormzy. We've also got Steve Mark, Senior Marketing Director at Adidas.
So we're going to exclusively reveal the details behind the brand new partnership between Adidas and #Merky.
Right, Stormzy, we can get straight into this. #MerkyFC, an initiative with one goal: to force change behind the scenes in football by offering careers all over the UK to black 18 to 24-year-olds. Stormzy, just talk to us about the issue and why you decided to take action.
Like many other industries, I think, as I said in the trailer, I think we've seen black footballers shine and be amazing and do their thing on the pitch, but I don't think that's often represented. Behind the scenes, management, the entire industry of football when it comes to marketing, media, just I thought it would be, I think it's very important that we see as much representation behind the scenes as we do on the pitch as well. So.
And Steve, #MerkyFC is now going to be in partnership, of course, with Adidas. Why do you feel like it was the time to turn around and address these issues?
I guess like Storms has summed up as an issue that needs to be addressed, and not just by, I guess, two parties, but by the industry as a whole. And I think, you know, at Adidas we believe that sport has the power to change lives, and we see that on and off the pitch. I think profound examples of that of late. But I think when you see what Stormzy does with Merky Books and what he's done with the Merky Scholarship Programme, we started thinking about what does that look like if you collide that with sport, and how can that really start to help the balance and the imbalance that we're seeing in the industry. So I think when we first started to discuss it, we were like, do we do this on our own? Like, is this a thing that we can do, just two brands together? And I think credit goes out to those other organisations out there today that are doing their thing. This isn't a brand new topic, right? But I think to make seismic change, we decided to involve like 11 other partners from the industry that really can help us not only land the message, but actually change the game.
Well, credit to both of you two, of course, for making massive changes in this game. So now you know what #Merky is. We can have a look at the current landscape of football careers and what the future will look like with some of those new creatives in the industry.
But first, we're going to have an honest chat about what it's actually like being black in football with some legends of the game. So #MerkyFC, they have set out their intention and said what they want to do in this space. But what is the current state of play when it comes down to being black in football? We hear lots of different headlines around diversity in the game, but let's take a detailed look at it, and who better to do that with than former Arsenal and England legend that is Wright, current Brighton defender Victoria Williams, and of course Stormzy himself with us. Welcome all. And Ian, I'm going to start with you on this. You started your professional career, Crystal Palace, 1985. When you think back to those days and to where we're at now, progression in for you, like, is it moving in the right direction and at the right kind of pace?
Tranquilizing drug of gradualism. You have to say Martin Luther King is right with that. I think that I have to look back at someone like Cyril Regis. I remember Cyril Regis saying to me about how important it is to have a voice, how important it is to be yourself. And I think one of the things that's changed from then to now is that the guys have platform, they have a voice, they've got somewhere where they can go and speak, and people can hear what they've got to say in respect of what's going on. But I don't know. It's like you look at it. There's not much that's changed in the grand scheme of things, and you only have to look really at the the lack of of managers, the lack of people behind the scenes. And you know, one of the saddest things I think as well is that when we do get any kind of lift, anybody does get some form of like job or something, we have to be so grateful. It's very tough. It's very tough to take because everything that we've had to do as black people in the sport, and we have to be so grateful for. And you know what I mean? We always just want what we feel like we deserve. And for me, going back to that time to this, it's getting better. Change is happening very slowly. But like it's something that we just have to keep going on about. We have to keep pressing. We have to keep doing these initiatives. We have to keep it going.
Keep pushing and plugging away. And Stormzy, when you stood alongside a legend that is Ian Wright, and how impactful was it to see these black ballers on the pitch when you were younger?
I always say that a legend like Ian, I'm sure he knows how impactful he was, but I always feel that because I'm on the ground like with the man, them, all my brethrens, you can't even imagine that. Ian would have inspired First, he would have inspired a whole generation to support Arsenal, which I'm mad about. And then, secondly, he would have inspired a whole generation of young black boys and young black girls to play football. Like, yo, we can play football. Like, and then the likes of Thierry and the likes of Raheem. Like, and I always say representation. You can never underestimate how far that goes. When you see someone who looks like you and you see them shine and you say, oh, I can do that. So. Yeah, man, it means a lot.
Impactful for sure. And, listening to Stormzy there, Victoria, for you, growing up and having these role models in the game, how important was that, both in the men's and the women's game?
It's crazy, like, talking about, like, the impact of just seeing people that look like you. I mean, I grew up in Yorkshire, and I don't think I had any black friends until I was in secondary school. So for me, it was, like, magazines, like the Match magazine, and, like, I'm a big Leeds fan. I remember they had Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, and that's the shirt I wanted. Do you know what I mean? Because it's someone that looks like me. And I remember they started off a little women's magazine called Fair Game. It's now She Kicks. And I remember flicking through there and seeing like Rachel Yankee. But the thing for me was like, all of these people live down south. So like now the game's growing. Like today now, we're on TV now, and I feel a sense of responsibility now. Despite the struggles that I had growing up, to make myself visible and show that you can do this and you can push through this regardless of where you are on the map.
And Ian, we spoke about the fact, you started at Crystal Palace in 1985. What was it like, though, behind the scenes? Did you see black men and women in positions of power?
No, there weren't anybody there at the time, so you didn't see anything. So it wasn't something that you could look at and say, yeah, I'm going to kind of aim for that, try and attain that. But I think post my career, you're looking at place like Brighton, Hope Powell at Brighton, you've got Lorna Falconer at Brentford, you've got Les Ferdinand QPR, Patrick Vieira as a manager now. So you're looking and you can see that. And that now, you have to say, is progress. But like I say, you need more. You need more people in the room, because what happens is that you get in a room and you want to be able to say to the certain amount of people that's in the room, that probably a lot of them will be white people, is to explain to them, you can't do it on your own. You need more people in the room. So like I say, when I was younger, you didn't see it, but we're seeing it now. So what's good about that is that the young people there can see that there's a hope. They see that there's a Les Ferdinand, see Patrick Vieira. And what you just need to get more in the door. Nepotism. Nepotism in the whole business is something that they're going to have to try and break down. I was speaking to a very high up in a very profitable and successful company, and he was talking about that. How, yes, you want to try and get the best man for the job, but when you're talking about nepotism and trying to get the best man for the job, it's unfortunate because a lot of the times the black guy is not the best man for the job in their eyes, and that is something that we have to try and get past.
Try and break that down.
Yeah.
This is what #MerkyFC
Absolutely.
is all about. And Storms, when I look at you, I think like, right, young centre back here. I'm sure you had the dreams, you know what I mean, of being that guy. But what about off the pitch? Did it ever occur to you maybe there might be roles in football for you or for your friends when you were younger?
Firstly, I was a goalkeeper.
Okay, sorry.
I just want to clarify that, to be fair, I never, and a lot of my friends, even to this day, some of my friends, they do management, grassroots football, and it's something we've spoken about a lot, because I think visibility for all our lives, and of course football's a wider industry, but if we're just talking about what we see on the pitch, and then I'm talking like the managers, the backroom staff, from when we was kids, all we've seen is like the same cycle of like someone loses a job, then it's like another white man And it's usually like a middle age, like it's not even a young person. So I think seeing that all your life, where it's like those positions of power, those managerial roles, those roles behind the scenes, even in the media, and you never see people who look like you, it's not always easy for you to have that same dream and goal, because you always think that's not in your peripheral. So yeah, it's tough, yeah.
It's demoralising.
There's a lot of conversation, Victoria, at the moment around the women's game, what that looks like in terms of diversity on the pitch, but also off the pitch as well. You know, there seems to be a real lack for black women in particular to be able to push through in the game. Do you see that?
I think context is key. So if you look at even gender equality, I think in terms of women's football, it's still in its infancy in terms of professionalism and resources available. So I think possibly you have to, I mean, opportunities there in terms of the kids coming through is still in its developmental phase. And so now, also a lot of women, and I know a lot of people that I played with, stop playing football because it's not financially viable. You know, you've got to live. So I think a lot of people fell by the wayside there. And so then when you start talking about minorities now, in terms of representation, there's so many of us that have fallen by the wayside. But now I think, you know, if you think like we've got Alex Scott, Anita Asante, Fern Whelan, you know, yourselves, like sort of putting their face on television. So now I think people can see that not only have we got a role on the pitch that can be filled, like off the pitch as well. I think that is so important. You don't just have to play it, you can enjoy it. And I think so many women are put off by that because it's normally a space for men. So I think that's where, you know, that's hopefully where this project will come in and help bridge that gap.
It's brilliant to think that could be the catalyst actually that's going to make a lot of young black women maybe see themselves in the game. And Ian, when we look at the stats actually, you know, more on the men's side, the amount of black players in the Premier League, it's high, you know, relatively high compared to the backroom staff. What are those barriers? You know, Victoria just mentioned the fact that, you know, there's finance and everything else that comes with it, but what are the main barriers in your opinion? Well,
you say the stats are crazy. Stats embarrassing when you look at the amount of black players that's been there. And no one could tell me that the black players don't want to be in those roles. You asked me, Jeanette, what are the barriers? I couldn't tell you what the barriers are because, again, we're talking about a kind of closed-off club of men who know their man, and they bring them in. I was talking about it earlier on, nepotism, stuff like that. It's very difficult. Like, you got someone like Chris Ramsey, who is at QPR. He is the most qualified coach of anyone. He's got everything. Chris Ramsey, and still, you know, he's been at QPR for ages, he was with England for ages, still can't get past a certain level to be a manager. You ask me, I don't know what the barriers are, but like the barriers are there, and there's people who can probably break down the barriers, and those are the people that you want to be talking to. Those are the people that we want to find, but who are those people? You can't find those people. Those people are very hard to find, but at the same time, everybody should be looking at the disparity in respects of the managers to players, and continue to ask the question. It's embarrassing. It's like, oh, you just carry on with it. Yeah,
you know, the term embarrassing, you know, it's a stark phrase, isn't it? And it kind of discourages a lot of people. But for you, Victoria, where do you draw encouragement from? You know, you've mentioned seeing faces, you know, on the television and sometimes behind the scenes, but where else can you draw that encouragement from?
Hope Powell. And, you know, it's crazy to think, you know, we look at the state of play now, but she was doing this like 15, 20, 25 years ago, pushing down doors that weren't even there, like building a door, then they were blocking it, and then she's pushing it through, you know, for the women's game. So I think to be a woman and be black and be a manager, an England manager, it's a path that nobody else has walked yet. And I think it's disappointing, but it's also inspiring, because if somebody can do that in that era, do you know what I mean? It's there, we can do it. But we need to support each other. We need, you know, the support from the majorities as well. I think that's the main thing. You know, how can we work in unison to actually make this, you know, more of an open space for everyone?
And you're right, making it more of an open space for everybody, understanding what the initiative can do. And Stormzy, if you had something like hashtag Merky FC around when you were younger with your friends, how much of a difference do you think that would have made?
I think a massive difference, mostly in the sense of, as we said before, I think when it comes to on the pitch, like black players and the man them, the girl them, like we've been shining from the beginning, as in, I think that's never been a doubt in terms of can young black people play football, but I think if Merky FC was around growing up, I think it would have been very inspiring for us to know that, okay, if I'm not going to be a footballer, cool, I might be a manager, or I might be a physio, or I might be a nutritionist, or I might be a presenter, I might have this role in media. Do you know what I mean? To know that there wasn't just this one lane into this wider industry of football, because there isn't. Do you know what I mean? Being a player is one thing, but there's so many other roles, so yeah.
Access is key. Ian, Victoria, Stormzy, you stay with us, but you guys, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hashtag Merky FC's goal is to make a difference, joining forces with the people that are out there already, trying to make the space more inclusive. Our next guests, Tobi and Leon, are making it their business to challenge the system, knocking on doors and sometimes having to kick those doors down.
Yeah, they gentlemen definitely kick some of these doors down, and the founder and CEO of Diverse, Tobi Ogundipe, and the entrepreneur, activist, founder of the Football Blacklist and a BComs collective, altogether MBE, Leon Mann. Gentlemen, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. I look at both of you and I see the changes you're making in terms of wanting to accelerate diversity and make change within both the landscape of sports and media. But Leon, I'll come to you first. We're talking about the same racial issues over and over again. Is it accelerating at the pace that you need it to?
It's certainly not accelerating at the pace that we want it to. The industry, for me and for many, many others working in this space, is at the crisis point. So we need to shift things on. We need to move things on. And to understand that problem, you need to look at the facts. 43% of the Premier League is made up of black players. Yet there is just one, across all 20 clubs, one black board member. It's unacceptable and things need to change. Essentially, you're saying we're the entertainers, but we can't manage the strategy, the vision, the delivery of the game, and the money. We need to change those things. And in the media, we also have big challenges. The last year's Euros, the men's Euros, we only had 2 black sports writers who were actively at games covering it, and 3 women. Things need to change, and we're here for that.
Leon, I think about my own journey and make the parallels into having to go to America out of university and thinking to myself, that's where I'm going to get my opportunity, because no companies here would give me an insight or an opportunity to start my career. How quickly do we need to make these changes, and what do you want to see these companies doing?
Well, I think collaboration has to be at the heart of change. If you want to be credible, if you want the trust of black communities, you need to work with groups that are out there, which is why this initiative is absolutely spot on in terms of where it's going and trying to make change. And we need to recognise the power of diversity. Diversity is not just about hearts and minds. This is a business case. If you look at the McKinsey report, it shows that diversity means better business. So better business yields better results, better successful businesses. So if we're not understanding this, we're not going to move it forward. And that's why we need to have these conversations in a real, in a way that means, well, inject urgency.
Tobi, I think about your organisation. You help especially black and ethnic minority young people get into those opportunities by giving them paid opportunities and helping them make a change within their own lives. Take me from a young person's perspective, though. How difficult is it mentally to turn around and think to yourself, we haven't got those barriers, we haven't got those opportunities, we haven't got those immediate chances to start the career?
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges they're facing. You know, they're so often the first. You know, the first in their family, the first in their friendship group, to try to break into, you know, a career in football or some of these other industries as well. And because that, they don't have necessarily a group around them who can, you know, tell them about different opportunities, recommend them for roles, you know, get them that first internship that makes all the difference, you know. So they're lacking that sort of, that guidance from someone around them who's done that route before them. And I think because of that, there's a lack of knowledge and awareness about a lot of the roles behind the scenes in football. So they're aware of obviously what's going on the pitch and in around the pitch, but not everything that goes into the product that they love. And if you're not aware of something, it's hard for you to really want it. And if you don't really want it, it's hard for you to actually get those opportunities, because they're hugely, hugely competitive to get. And then on top of that, a big problem that we see is a lack of confidence and self-belief at times, because, you know, they're hopping on the bus and going to another part of London to interview with, you know, a company in Liverpool Street in a big glass building.
Suit and tie,
but you're wearing your suit, but you haven't worn it for a long time, you know? And you know, you feel a little bit uncomfortable. And you get in that room and you're surrounded by people who don't look like you, they don't sound like you know, you're thinking about how you're having your hair, how you're gonna say your name. And then if you face rejection after that, you know, that imposter syndrome really ramps up and it impacts how you see yourself. So I think for us, for this program and everything that we do, it's so important to inspire them every step of the way, to show them that, you know, we believe that they can do it, and that's why we're doing this program.
I love the conversation you just opened there in terms of imposter syndrome. Do you remember what it was like when you first applied for your first job and you was in that stage?
Yeah. I mean, I was the kid on the bus, I guess, you know. So, you know, going in there in that uncomfortable suit, I hate suits, so that was uncomfortable. You know, I remember applying to jobs that I didn't understand at places where, you know, I thought I should be applying, and then going there and yeah, you know, being in a big office with a big brand, with the big table, you know, and again, like being the only black person in the room. And I actually felt like I'm representing black people, which is ridiculous.
It's a lot of pressure, right?
It's too much pressure. It sounds ridiculous, but that's how a lot of people feel. Because I'm looking around, I'm thinking, why aren't there any other black people? And I felt the pressure to show, okay, yeah, we can do this too. And so that was, you know, uncomfortable. It's too much pressure really to put on yourself. But for me, I turned that imposter syndrome to a bit of a chip on my shoulder, to be honest. And I said, okay, I'm going to be the most prepared, the most well-researched, and I'm going to show them that, you know, we can do it as well. And that's exactly what I did. I started researching, listening to podcasts and reading newsletters, and I found that, you know, you need to go above and beyond to get these competitive opportunities. So if I wanted a role in marketing, I would start a marketing, you know, side hustle or a blog or a social media platform to stand out from the crowd. And those are the kind of things that we communicate to the candidates. We don't talk that much about the challenges. We talk about the practical things that we can do to go out and get these opportunities.
Tobi, you're not only just working in terms of with these candidates, you're actually working with the businesses too, so they can attract more diverse talent and change the landscape of their businesses overall. What are the main areas you want to see from the business perspective now?
So I think we've heard a lot of talk, you know, we've heard a lot of talk since, you know, March 2020 especially, since, you know, the growth in the Black Lives Matter movement, since of course COVID, the death of George Floyd as well. But what we really need is action. Action is the only thing, to me at least, that matters. You know, the talking time should really be over. And from my perspective, what they need to do is go to these communities, as Leon said, and give value. So before you even expect anything from them, before you complain about, you know, the lack of diversity in your talent pool, take the time and go to them and add value. And some of the ways you can do that, and the ways we do it, is by hosting careers events, career sessions, where you know, bring someone on. So say you're a football agent, you know, come to them and talk to them about what it's like being a football agent, and, you know, help inspire them to believe that they can do it as well. So I think it's important for them to be authentic and not try and think, oh, we need to do something completely different. No, stick to what you know and share that with them. The other thing that works really well is, you know, mentorship programs for a similar reason, to add value. And then I think finally with, you know, your job descriptions. So often we see job roles and they're pitching, they're advertisements of that company or that role. Whereas what we need to do is engage and educate. You know, we need to explain what these things mean, because they've not worked in the corporate world before. They don't have the same context that we do. And so it's, and also with the imposter syndrome, you know, you're putting people off if you're creating a job description that's not accessible in terms of the language being used. And so that's what employers need to do. But at the same time, from a candidate's perspective, we need to do our bit as well to make sure we're doing well thought out applications, doing our research and going above and beyond as well.
Leon, today is an important day, right? Hashtag Merky FC is going to be launching a massive change. What do you want to see as a springboard to turn around and make a difference now?
Look, this is about diversifying the game. The mission is simple, and we as a community have to come together and find solutions, because we can't really trust our industry, if we're being totally honest. So we have to collaborate and guide them and help them in this area. The work that Tobi's doing is sensational. The work that's going on with the football blacklist, BComs, is beginning to make a difference as well. But if we're unified and together in this, we'll make the progress that's needed. And, you know, the likes of the Premier League, the FA, they are listening, they are collaborating, certainly with the football blacklist. So there are opportunities for change. So I think, you know, we're in a place where we can really push on if we keep together.
I appreciate you both. Trust me, for the work that you've done and the work that you continue to do.
Now for a group of people who haven't waited for permission and are doing football their way. Hashtag Merky FC is standing on the shoulders of giants like these guys, forging their own path and making a career in and around football.
With me, broadcaster and content creator Anita Jones, and Versus editorial and brand officer Mayowa Quadri, and director at TAP Sports Management, Henry Frimpong. Now, Anita, let's start with your journey. AFTV is where it started, Arsenal Fan TV for those who don't know, but now fully fledged broadcaster working for the Premier League. A bit of a journey, but a good one all the same, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, you spoke about AFTV. Don Robbie is my guy. He gave me my opportunity and just to connect with the fans in a different way. Like now, broadcasters want to be working with fan channels like that. So without that platform, I wouldn't be where I am today. And you just have such a different insight to the way you consume football content, and you can relate a lot of the time with the players. I'm interviewing players nowadays and they can relate to me, they can talk to me on a level, whereas I think if you come through the traditional route, there's that distance, and ultimately you're not from the same background as a lot of these players. 43% of them are black? Like, I can relate to them on a different level that maybe people who are from different backgrounds might not be able to.
And when you hear that, Mayowa, you know that actually for you, a similar journey. You were working in a job completely unrelated to football. Do you want to tell us what it was?
Yeah, so I was working as a graduate manager in a sales role. Before that, if I was to go into what my degree was, I would have probably been an oil rig, which is completely different from sports media. But for me, I just always remember the conversations I had with my friends on the playground. And I looked at football and I thought to myself, these are guys that are not too far removed from me. We probably know people that know them, but we don't get them to see them be themselves. Like, I know what this person's like, but when I see them speak, they have to act a certain way in the guise of being professionals. Like, that's not how it should be. So how can we create something where we can speak how we want to speak, we can make our own thing, and ultimately galvanise the community to hear football how they want to. So that's how I started my first podcast.
It's a bit of a scary journey though, isn't it, for you to kind of do that and go against the status quo, against tradition in sports broadcasting?
It is in a sense, but my wise man once told me, if you can't go into their house, build your own. And that's what I did initially with the first podcast that I went on, because the main thing was about people around me speak how I speak. We have our views, we're in our group chats talking, and this is football to us, but we don't see that. So how can we create that and make sure that's a thing and have our own thing? Because I didn't see representation on TV screens. I saw it on the pitch, but I didn't see it further than a few people that were on the screens. But I guess it's similar for you in terms of your journey. Like, how did you step into media?
Yeah, I was different because I came from an athlete background. My background is Olympic sport. So when I step into the media space, there's a little bit of a point to prove that actually I'm not just about athletics. I can talk football, I can talk boxing, taekwondo, whatever you want from me, I can give you. But the reality is, it wasn't a traditional path that's been taken by a lot of people. So you're kind of, like you say, you're carving out your own kind of space. But there are various different roles and different networks you need to tap in to be able to do that. And that brings me on nicely to you, Henry, in the aspect that you've taken on so many different roles when it comes down to football, but you've landed in a place now that feels quite comfortable. So tell us about your journey.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know how long you got, but in terms of my beginning, it was somewhat traditional in terms of getting an internship young, but the desire for me to do that came from a family friend who is essentially a mentor now, shout out to AK, who was working for Adidas at the time, was telling me about all these roles when I was young, which I had no idea existed. I knew I wanted to work in football, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I took part in a focus group when I was 18 or so, and as a focus group, they were asking me questions about a pair of football boots. I was asking them questions about what they did, and was very annoying. Post that, managed to get their details and got an internship from there. And then from there, I managed to work at Manchester United in the partnerships team, did a similar role at Chelsea, and then went to work at Copper 90, which is a football media business. Spent some years there, and now I work for TAP Sports Management, and we work with footballers off the pitch on things like commercial opportunities, press, media, philanthropy, anything that they're interested in away from football. So players like Calvin Phillips or David Alaba or Danny Welbeck.
And there's so much more of that. People have got this appetite to know so much more about these football players away from the pitch.
Exactly, and there's so many players who have shown that they're more than just athletes. And that's just not just in football, that's in sport in general. They've got so much to give, and they're also icons and leaders, and that's why brands want to work with them. They want to associate themselves with them.
Anita, for yourself, being a black woman in this industry, you know, very talented, bilingual with it as well. She can give you La Liga, she can give you Premier League, like whatever you need. In that aspect, though, there are challenges that come with someone who looks like yourself or looks like me. And have you experienced some of those challenges?
Yeah, I think I heard imposter syndrome being brought up before. That's something I've definitely battled with. It's easy to find a black ex-player who is on the screen doing punditry, but look at the talent who's asking them the questions. Look at who's talking to the players off the pitch, who's talking to the managers pre-game, post-game. They don't look like us, that's the reality. And a lot of the time when I first stepped into those rooms, I felt alienated. I felt like I didn't belong. I put so much pressure on myself, and it took a lot for me to get over that. Like, for example, I'm in the Arsenal All or Nothing documentary, and that would give the people the impression that black women are just regularly in those spaces, and we're not, you know? Like, it's great for that visibility, but I feel like it's a lie. Yeah. So that's changing, though, slowly, but they talk about females being in those spaces. Tick the box, female and black, and the numbers are even smaller.
Yeah, it does. It makes it more challenging. I would tell a story of a particular Premier League manager. I can do the maths yourself, not currently managing right now, but I'd go there every week, sit in the press conference, be the only black woman in that press conference. I'd put my hand up and he'd look past me to see who's put that. I'm like, bro, like, I'm here. Like, it's, you know,
he definitely saw you.
He definitely saw me. Do you know what I mean? And it is tough when you speak about representation on that level. But Mayowa, like, I don't want to put people off. I want people to feel encouraged to join the industry in any aspect when it comes down to football. What do you think it takes to get into it, but also to stay in it and actually feel welcomed?
For me, to get into it takes to own who you are. I mean, ultimately, you can only be your best self, and there's power in that. Like we said, there's so many black footballers on the pitch, and a lot of the economy of football is because of them. So therefore, everything that relates to it is about them. It's about their culture, it's about how they speak. So knowing that you have power as a black person in this industry is amazing, because when you go into certain rooms, you can say, no, this is how it should be done. Trust me, I know this, like, I can relate. It's such a powerful thing. But I think to stay there as well, it's the togetherness. As Anita mentioned, it's very easy to have imposter syndrome when you go into these rooms and you look around and it's like, I'm just the only one here. But there are pockets of people doing great things, and that's the great thing about this space. Everyone links up with each other. Me and Henry have collabed on so many different things. We flew out to Ghana for a project, and it's about making sure that you can stay within people and grow together. That's the way that we continue to get more people here.
And what kind of advice are you giving to people, Henry, about coming into this industry, staying into this industry, and actually being in a position where you feel quite powerful in this space? Yeah,
I mean, initially getting into the industry, it always goes back to, which a lot of black people have when they're younger, when they're told you're gonna have to work harder than everybody else to get an opportunity. So for me, I was stubborn. I was like, I want to work in football, so whatever I need to do it. And then once you're there, I mean, as Maya always said, there are challenges, and there are times when you're like, you're going into rooms and you feel like you can't relate to anyone, or you're like, oh, I don't know if I should say anything here. Am I saying the right thing? But being able to lean on other people in like-minded situations is great. But the work will often speak for itself as long as you're unapologetic about it. And also, there is benefits to being diverse and being someone that has a different point of view, because, I mean, Leon touched on it before, it makes financial sense for businesses to have diverse workforces. So don't be afraid to show who you are, what your background is, because you can definitely have value.
And don't be afraid to find people like who are championing you, because we're saying all of this, but like I've had people in my corner, like at the Premier League and other organisations, and they're there. It's just, I guess, finding out the law of the land and then, yeah, working with them.
There's a beauty in that as well, because I feel like there's so many people that have gone forth and broke down doors. And it's about that continuing to happen as well. There's so many instances where someone will see someone do something, it's like, okay, I'm in here now. It's like, no, you have to keep knocking that down for everyone coming behind you, and making sure that no matter what you do, there's people watching, there's people that are influenced by what you're doing. Even if it's the smallest thing, you being in the space gives people faith that, oh, that could be me, or oh, I could work in football, or I could interview this player. So I think owning who you are is just so important. There's so many times when, as you mentioned, we feel like we can't be who we are. but that is our greatest power. Own it and keep going forward with it.
Well, thank you to all three of you for being who you are. You're doing amazing things. It makes me excited to watch all your content and all the things that you can do in this space as well. So thanks so much.
So there it is, the current state of black representation across the football industry today. Yes, there are some incredible success stories, people who have forged their own path throughout the footballing industry, but there is a long way to go. Change is happening, but for us, it's not happening fast enough, it's not happening easy enough. Hashtag Merky FC demands more than that. We've reached out to 11 leading businesses working within and around football to join us by offering career opportunities to young people of black heritage from across the UK. And you know what? They all said yes. This is our starting 11.
Okay, so here we go.
In goal, you've heard from them already, the safe hands that are Adidas.
That back line made up of sports agency, team marketing, Manchester United, sporting venue architects, KSS and goal.com.
An incredibly strong and creative midfield. On the left-hand side, I've got Fulham. In the middle, I've got Lab Bible holding it down. And of course, on the right-hand side, the sports media company, Wasserman.
Then up front, it's Culture, Football Platform, Versus and Sky Sports.
And you know who's leading the line, right? There's only one team that can lead the line, right? Hashtag Merky FC, leading from the front. And that's right, giving those amazing opportunities to those young people.
Every single one of the hashtag Merky FC team have pledged roles within their organisation.
This kicks off right now. Super exciting times ahead. Look, Storms, this is a formation we've never seen before.
That's right. This is a football movement like no other. No more looking in from the outside. Hashtag Merky FC is here to take action and show young black people that there is a place for them in the game. Creating futures that are bright, where people can step with confidence. We aren't focused with what's on the pitch, but we are looking to see what we can do off the pitch. Whatever that career may be in football, hashtag Merky FC have got it covered. This is just the beginning.